Sanshi Guo Yuan Wen. To understand the causes of one's past lives, one must recognize that those who suffer in this life are the result of those causes. To know what will happen in future generations, one must look to the authors of this present life. Devout men and women, listen with sincerity as we recite the sutra on the causes and consequences of past, present, and future lives. The law of cause and effect in the three lifetimes is not a trivial matter. The words of the Buddha are truly profound and should not be taken lightly. Why do I hold an official position in this life? In my previous life, I used the gold to adorn the Buddha's body. Karmas accumulated in a past life are reaped in this life. I seek forgiveness before the Buddha, clad in a purple robe and wearing a jade belt. The Buddha is dressed in gold. One covers oneself with the same attire. Not to mention that becoming an official is easy. Where would such opportunities come from if one did not cultivate oneself in a previous life? Why do people ride horses or take palanquins? In their past lives, they built bridges and helped others. Why do people wear silk and satin? In their previous lives, they gave clothes to help the poor. Why do we have food and clothing to wear? In a past life, I gave food and drink to the poor. Why is there no food or clothing? In my past life, I was unwilling to spend even a single penny. Why are there so many high-rise buildings? In a past life, people built monasteries and pavilions. What is the reason for such abundance of fortune and blessings? It is because in a past life, one gave alms at the temple. What is the reason for such a dignified appearance? In a past life, flowers and fruits were offered in front of the Buddha. Why such wisdom and intelligence? Because in a past life, one recited scriptures and chanted the name of Buddha. Why are virtuous and beautiful wives thus destined to meet such men? In their previous lives, they formed many connections within the Buddhist community. What is the reason for a long and healthy life for couples? In their previous lives, they offered banners and offerings to the Buddha. Why are both parents present in this life? In a past life, I respected those who lived in solitude, without a father or a mother. Why is that so? In their previous lives, they were all people who hunted birds. Why are there so many descendants? It is because in a past life, that person released the birds from their cage. The reason why an adopted child does not turn out as expected is that, in their previous life, they were killed by being drowned as infants. Why am I childless in this life? In my past life, I was the one who destroyed their nests and filled their burrows. Why do people live longer these days? It is because in their previous lives, they bought items and set free living beings. Why is one's life so short in this existence? In a past life, one killed numerous beings. Why am I without a wife in this life? In my past life
previous lives, they bought atoms and set free living beings. Why is one's life so short in this existence? In a past life, one killed numerous beings. Why am I without a wife in this life? In my past life, I committed adultery and stole someone else's wife. Why am I widowed in this life? In my past life, I treated my husband with contempt. Why am I in this life a slave? Because in my past life, I was a person who forgot kindness and was ungrateful. Why am I so perceptive in this life? In my past life, I donated oil to light the Buddha's lamp. Why am I blind in this life? It is because in my past life, I failed to guide others properly. Why is there this gap in this life? In the past life, one extinguished the lamp before the Buddha. Why am I deaf and mute in this life? In my past life, I spoke cruelly to my parents. Why do I have a hunched back in this life? In my past life, I laughed at those who worshipped Buddha. Why am I so inept in this life? It is because I committed evil deeds in a past life and harmed others. Why am I lame in this life? In my past life, I stopped people on their way and robbed them. Why are we treated like cattle and horses in this life? It is because we failed to repay the debts we owed in a previous life. Why are pigs and dogs in trouble now? In their previous lives, they deceived and harmed others. Why am I plagued by so many illnesses in this life? It is because in my past life, I killed and harmed other beings. Why am I free from illness in this life? In my previous life, I gave medicine to save others. Why am I imprisoned in this life? It is because I did evil and harmed others in my past life. Why do I die of hunger in this life? In my past life, I ruined the cultivation of grains. Why did those who died from poison die in this life? In their previous life, they poisoned all living beings with drugs. Why such loneliness and hardship? In the past life, one's greed and cruelty harmed others. Why do those in one's family laugh? In the past life, they helped those who were alone. Why am I insane in this life? In my past life, it was the indulgence in wine and meat that forced that monk to abandon his spiritual path. Why was I hanged in this life? In my past life, I was robbed in the mountains. Why do those who are widowed, orphaned, or alone end up in such a state? It is because in their previous lives, they were heartless and jealous of others. Why does thunder and fire occur? It is because the large scale and the small scope are not fair. Why is a snake as bad as harmful as a tiger as scratch? Because in a past life, they were enemies and rivals. One reaps what one sows. In hell, who can one blame for one's suffering? Do not think that causes and effects remain unseen by anyone. They may be far away for your descendants, but right beside you for yourself. If you don't believe that fasting and self-discipline lead to spiritual accumulation, just look at the people around you who are enjoying the blessings of such practices.